What's up, guys? As I'm sure you can appreciate, washing your car in winter or in lower temperatures, it just snowed the other day here, is not necessarily easy, nor is it very fun, but it is something we definitely need to do, especially with sand and salt on the road. Now, the subconscious thing that we all go through as car people is, hey, when it's sandy and salty and kind of gross out, we don't want to drive our car. I kind of disagree with that. Whether it's a daily driver or your dream car, I do think you should drive it, maybe change your tires, of course, but when you get sand and salt in it, all you need to do is kind of clean it off. But we don't necessarily do that. We actually do it less than we need to because it's so cold outside, and I can understand that. So this particular video is about, hey, what do I do, or what can we do to kind of minimize that gap, meaning shrink this gap of what needs to get done and what's really getting done in the cold weather. And so there's a few tips and tricks to kind of keep your car clean, but more importantly, to remove as much salt or the bad stuff, the stuff that really happens to a car or can potentially happen to a car throughout the winter months. So my goal here is to keep you driving and enjoying your car. So that and a lot more coming up on this episode of Drive and Protect. All the way in. So they touch on paint off. You can hear it. Hey, whew. Before we get started, for the purposes of this video, we're going to assume that you do not have an outdoor hose hooked up or a separate hot water line running to your pressure washer. Likewise, working indoors is not an option either. Obviously, if you had any of these, I would recommend quickly rinsing the car outside, pull it back inside the garage, and apply the frothy method to the paint, dry it, and then of course hydrate it. But that's not the case for most drivers today, so that's why we're discussing possible alternatives. Number two, I want to be very clear that this is not a winter prep video, nor is it an end of season or spring overhaul video. This is focused on mid-season maintenance. Okay, with that said, let's get into the 3 different approaches and variations to a winter maintenance wash. Step 1 is to make sure you're dressed properly for working outside in the cold, including gloves. I like to wear winter running gloves, which tend to be thin and tight fitting, which allows me to squeeze extra large latex gloves over the running ones to keep me warmer than just latex alone, while still allowing flexibility and dexterity. Next, start the car and put the heat and both front and rear defrosters on. Then park the car in any sun that may be available. Normally this is a no-no, but in winter, the chances of product and water freezing is much higher than the risk of evaporation. But again, use your judgment. Level 1 is pretty straightforward. We'll be using Frothe, the aerator, a bunch of towels, plus a mixture of Boost Winter Wash in the aerator to neutralize the salt buildup. To see an example of how Boost works to slow winter corrosion, click the video link above. First, fill the aerator with 40 ounces of warm water, but not scalding hot, which is about here or on the shoulder of the reservoir. Next, pour 6 capfuls of Frothe and 2 capfuls of Boost Winter Wash into the reservoir and gently stir. With the car warmed up, add the frothy mixture to all door jambs, gently agitate with a wheel brush, and allow a few minutes for Boost to penetrate any driving salt in these high-risk areas. A quick tip here is to not pump the aerator up all the way, just a few pumps so it doesn't squirt out hard. You just need it to sort of ooze out, and then you can work it into the tight areas with your wheel brush. Make sure to do the hood and the trunk jambs as well, as they are also hot spots for potential oxidation. With the door jambs soaking, next work one panel at a time, spray Frothe and Boost, and scoop with a clean, dry microfiber towel while rotating as you lift. Refold as the towel becomes soiled. Keep in mind, you may need to add a thick coating of Frothe and Boost as you get lower on the car or behind the wheels. Likewise, you may need to rotate or discard the towel more frequently in these higher dirt-prone areas. And remember, you don't need to rinse the car or the panel with water when you add Boost to your Frothe mixture, making it a great hoseless and corrosion-inhibiting alternative. Once the majority of the dirt is removed, then add 1 or 2 squirts of hydrate on the leftover Frothe and wipe clean with a dry microfiber towel, which will leave behind a hydrophobic layer of protection. Then move to the next panel and repeat the process while ensuring only clean sides of the towels touch the paint. This is key to minimizing any potential scratches. Another quick tip is to leave your clean towels in the car to keep them, well, clean, and to have a bin or a bag to collect all your dirty towels as you go. You never want to let them hit the ground. I also like to quickly clean the gas tank door and around the cap, but make sure the cap is tight before you start playing around in here. Now with all the panels completed, wipe up the previously frothy door jambs with a clean wheel towel. In my case, I stick to orange towels for frothy and blue towels for the wheels and the door jambs, red for wax removal and touch-ups. These are all the same 320 to 350 GSMs, but they have different colors to help separate and avoid cross-contamination. Then I repeat the same process on the wheels, wedging my hand in the best I can to get around and clean every corner. If you haven't protected the wheel during the winter prep weeks earlier, that's okay, we can do it now. Remove the lid and scoop out a small dollop of gelée into your palm while wearing gloves, and work the protectant into the spokes of the wheels using your hands. Once all covered and you're done, remove it with a dry blue microfiber towel and repeat on the next wheel. But only do one wheel at a time and do not let it sit for more than a few minutes, as 2.0 is incredibly strong. If you've already done this pre-season, then skip this step. Finally, use glass cleaner to remove any smudges from outside and especially the inside of the windshield to avoid night driving glare, which is very common in winter months due to the loss of daytime light. Now for variation number 2, it's not that crazy or complicated, but it can be really helpful if you know your car tends to have softer paint or is more dirty than usual, or if you have easy access to a slop sink. Keep in mind, I started filming late in the day on day 1, and it started to snow and lose light by about 4:30 as I finished the R8, so I called it a day. However, overnight, the temperature plummeted from the low 30s to 14 degrees with 15 to 25 mile an hour winds. So I thought it perfect timing to introduce a warm water bucket on my wife's Outback and put my thermal hoodies on. So for this variation, you're going to do a slight twist to the steps we did before on the R8, but this time introduce a gallon of warm water. First, add 1 capful of frothy to your empty bucket, then add roughly a gallon or so of warm water from your sink. Next, throw 4 or 5 towels in the water based on the size of your car and the level of dirt. After a few washes with this technique, you get a feel for what's the right number of towels based on the size of your car. Then add another squirt of frothy on top of the towels and mix them around in the bucket to coat the warm towels in this lubrication. The reason you don't need a lot of water in your bucket is because once you use the towel, it's never going to go back in, meaning you're not redunking as you would with a normal wash mitt. So in this case, you're going to use a lot less water. After you've applied frothy in the boost mixture to the door, for example, your scoop-off technique is going to be the same thing, but using a wet towel instead of a dry towel. Again, adding more lubrication if you can. And keep in mind, your hands are going to be much warmer while you're doing this. If you are in a particularly dirty area of the car, you can also add another shot of frothy to your wet towel before you go and wipe this area. Then dry with hydrate and a dry microfiber towel and repeat on the next panel. Once all your painted panels are done, if you have any leftover water, either use it to soak the wheels first before applying frothy, or simply dunk your blue towels in the remaining water to add a bit more lubrication if possible. Again, no rinsing is needed when you're using frothy. For the third variation, we're using the edge with the same techniques from number 1 and number 2, but plus a self-serve car wash if you have one close by. Likewise, we're using the same tools as before, plus a small wheel willy if you happen to have one. If you don't worry about it. When you arrive, get in line and hop out of the car and grab the aerator. Frothy the paint before you get into the wash bay. Your goal here is to soak the paint, allowing it to penetrate the seams, edges, and especially behind the wheels and in the door jambs. If your door gap is big enough, you can stick the nozzle tip in or near the seam to fill the jam. Also open the door slightly for more access, but don't worry, it's not going to get in the inside of the car. By doing this, you'll push any wedged in salt or dirt out of these crevices, which are hotbeds for oxidation. On a totally unrelated side note, you also look like a crazy person doing this in line before you get into the wash bay, so it's kind of fun watching people wonder what you're doing. Likewise, be sure to coat the wheels, calipers, and shocks if you can reach them. Depending on the type of wheel, you can use a small wheel woolly to agitate the cleaner into the tight spots behind the spokes and the wheel wells themselves. Either way, have fun and do as much as you can before the bay opens. Now, once you roll into the wash bay, you have 2 options. You can pull out the warm bucket of water with your frothy and towel mixture and scoop the frothy off as we did on the Outback. Or the other option is to simply power wash the soaking frothy off the paint if you decide to leave your bucket at home. Either way, make sure to take advantage of the pressure washer and rinse the undercarriage as well. But whatever you do, do not use the wand or the soap that comes out of it, as it's pretty much guaranteed to scratch your paint with these types of brushes and harsh chemicals. The irony is, technique number 3 is actually faster than scrubbing down your car with that dirty brush, especially if you prep while you're in line, and it's 1,000 times safer to the paint, Plus, you don't occupy the wash bay for as much time, you use less quarters, and you're not in this panic rushing around as your time winds down, allowing you to do a more thorough, slower job. Finally, with proper car wash etiquette, move out of the wash bay once you've rinsed so you can dry, hydrate, tire shine, or otherwise love your car so anyone behind you can go about their wash as well. But honestly, the method you choose should be dependent on how dirty your car is and how well it was maintained prior to winter. I think a mixture of all three variations can be helpful, and I recommend at least a few undercarriage pressure washings if possible throughout winter, so keep that in mind.
Okay, so there are the three variations to washing your car when it's really, really cold out. Basically, you're using about a gallon of water, your aerator, hydrate, and a bunch of towels, and you can get the job done. Now, a lot of you are asking or probably thinking to yourself, well, what happens if I do have a garage? If you have a garage, all the better, right? Pull it inside the garage, use the frothy method. Once it falls on the ground or drips on the ground, it's gonna evaporate in 2 minutes and you're good to go. But the purpose of this particular video is we're assuming we have no hose, one, and two, we live in an apartment or somewhere where we just don't have any shelter and we have to do this outside. I kind of wanted to have some fun and say like, hey, it's 14 degrees, 25-mile-an-hour winds. We could still get it done. Here are 5 or 10 different variations that you can kind of pick and choose and use for yourself and say like, hey, yeah, I want to use this one, or I have a car wash near me, or I don't, or that kind of thing. Oh, I have a bucket of warm water. Kind of makes your life a little bit easier because granted, it is a bit cold out here and it's a little bit challenging to do this, but at the same time, I don't want to be prevented from driving. That's my dream car right there. I don't want sand and salt. I get it, I understand, but if there's more sand and salt, that means we just have to do more washing in my mind because I'm not going to stop driving it. It took me too long to get it and I'm too excited about it, so I'm going to keep driving. The last thing I want to note is a lot of people have emailed me about frothy and they say, hey, we're using so many towels, what's going on here? And oh yeah, it totally makes sense. Here's why. If you have a bunch of different variables, meaning soaps and cleaners and brute and wheel soap and all these kind of things, right? One of the things is water. And so if you take away water when you're doing a proper wash, something else has to go up. It's kind of like one of those music recording things. You push one up, one's got to go down. One goes up, one goes down. So if you take water away, towels have to go up. Why? Because the water is carrying away the dirt and soap and all the junk on the car is carrying away. We don't have the water, so that variable's gone. So now we have to use something to scoop it and carry it away. So by default, you're gonna be using more towels, which kind of makes sense. So yes, you're gonna have 5 or 6 more wet towels, dirty towels, put them in your slop sink, wring them out, put them in the washing machine and you're good to go. But basically, I guess the moral of the story or the point or the bottom line, or whatever you want to say is, I just didn't want to be prevented from driving in the wintertime. There's a couple of different options. I don't want you to say, hey, it's cold outside, I can't wash my car. You can wash your car. It may not be very comfortable. You may say, hey, I don't want to go outside because it's cold and I don't want to wash my car. I can't argue with you there, but it can be done. These cars look amazing. Take a few minutes, put some clothes on, and don't prevent yourself from driving your car. As always, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.